Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Wizards Beyond Waverly Place Season 1. So, Season 1 is officially over, and so far, Season 2 has not been renewed, but truly, I feel like Season 2 is going to get renewed because of the simple fact Max did not return, and it's always been reported that Jake T. Austin will come back for like a guest appearance. Also, the actor who played Mason, Greg Skulkin, I'm almost positive. I read a comment on his Instagram talking about how he can't wait to come back for Wizards and meet his good friend David Henry. So I truly believe it's going to get renewed. Plus, they will be really stupid not to renew this show because Wizards has a huge fan base. And the first season wasn't like, it was pretty good, you know what I'm saying? So if Raven's Home can get renewed for about 6 seasons, I know this spinoff can. And so, like, when it comes to this show, there are some good things about this show, and then there are some slight bad things about this show because the bad things are kind of like, yo, we need a little bit more explanation because, there was the original series. You just can't gloss over that. You just can't rush this storyline, and more importantly, it's kind of like keep continuity intact. And this show does not always keep continuity intact. I get it. Like, the original series was about like what came out in 2007. It ended in 2012. The last time we had anything from the original series was in 2013. It's been about like 10 years or so, And so like I get it, what I'm saying? It's gonna be hard to like keep track. But hey, that's what Disney Plus is for. You rewatch the entire series, you take notes, and then you make your new series. Or better yet, you hire the team from the original series. But that's not what they did with this. See, the original series was created by that of Todd J. I think his name is Goodwald, I think. And so like, or Greenwald, one of those two. And so he created it, but he had like a showrunner, head writer for like the original series. The showrunner, head writer either quit or got fired at the end of the third season. That's why the fourth season felt so different. He did not come back for this series. However, Todd is credited for creating this series. But it's weird because when the show first got announced, it seemed like he either didn't know or wasn't thrilled or something like that. But then he started to be. So it's a little bit of a confusing thing. However, the two showrunner creators of Raven's Home took over this show, and they are now like, the two that have developed this show and stuff. And you can tell because this show is a bit different from the original series. I just started rewatching the original series. I had to stop on season 3 because I had to put out like, videos for this month and last month. So I took a bit of a pause, but I do plan on rewatching the rest of the original series because I want to talk about it in October and stuff. And so Wizards of Waverly Place is my all-time favorite, and I mean all-time favorite Disney Channel show. I watched it back. No, actually, I wasn't in college, I don't think. But I think that's when I was out of college. Yeah, 'cause it came out in 2007. But I watched it as an adult, and I loved it. And because it reminded me so much of Harry Potter and just wacky Disney stuff. And the original series was that wacky. It was a wacky take on Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying? And so I was all for that. The wands, the magic, the goofiness, the silliness, and all this and that. And your typical Disney family formula, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, excuse me, I'm so tired and exhausted. Daylight savings, man, I swear. I'm over here watching TV, which I assume was around 2:30 in the morning. But then I look at my tablet. I'm like, why does my tablet say 3:30 if my clock says 2:30? And I'm all like, oh crap, it's daylight savings. So I didn't get to bed till around 4ish or something like that, but didn't fall asleep until about 5. I am exhausted. What was I talking about? Um, Something Harry Potter, something wizard, something magic, something family, Disney, whatever. Anyway, Wizards of Wizards of Waverly Place is my all-time favorite Disney Channel show. Like I just love it, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just so awesome and everything. It's just so fun. And so like while rewatching it, I couldn't stop laughing and everything because it's so silly and wacky. And then you get to the spin-off show and you can tell it is slightly different and everything. So my apologies if you hear me yawn in this video. I am exhausted. Went to bed around 4 or 5, woke up at 7, went back to sleep, woke up at noon. I am exhausted. I just feel like passing out right now. Anyways, so Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. I was always wondering, what's it gonna be like? And I see little changes here and there. I mean, you have to. You can't keep it exactly like the original series. And time has passed, and Disney Channel has changed once again and everything. And like you can tell by watching this series that it's trying to evolve what Wizards of Waverly Place was by making it a bit more edgy in the terms of there's this witch, she's supposed to be so powerful and she's supposed to destroy the world and everything. Then there's the ongoing story plot line of there's this evil wizard and for whatever reason that person wants Billy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit edgier in terms of that regard. Also, the original series was episodic, whereas this one is more serialized and episodic and everything. It's more episodic than it is serial because they really don't lag on the whole big mystery of the show that they set up in the first episode. It kind of sprinkles it in a couple of middle episodes, but then it doesn't really start to kick up towards like the end. Also gone from the show is that little split scene cut scene thing, when you go from I think it's after the commercial break of the original series where you'll have like the main young cast walking across the screen and like either dancing or acting silly and then something magical will happen. They don't do that here, which I gotta admit I really missed that. It was just kind of fun, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just something different because no other Disney show did that at the time. And so I miss stuff like that. And when you watch like the humor of this show versus the other show, the humor is okay. Here's the thing. I said this show evolves the original series, but it also lacks the evolvement of like the original series. So it's both evolving and disevolving or unevolving, something like that. Because it's like, it's a step up in terms of serialization and trying to be edgy, but then it's a step down in terms of the overall humor factor and stuff. There's still humor in it, don't get me wrong. It's not like Secrets of Sulphur Springs where there's no humor. And it's not so serious like Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion, but it's just kind of like they keep the beats of the original series, but they're not slamming on that like drum and everything, you know what I'm saying? Like when you watch this show, you will laugh and you will find this cute and you will find that funny, but you're not gonna be like hysterically laughing or like find it insanely funny, you know what I'm saying? The wacky era of Disney Channel is sadly over, and probably for the best, because man, I swear that wacky era was brainwashing those kids, man. Cause see, I grew up in the Zoog Disney era. In the Zoog Disney era, you have more like Lizzie McGuire, even Stevens. So weird. It was funny, but it was more realistic funny. You know what I'm saying? Or it would be silly, wacky, but still the shows were more realistic. Then you get into the wacky stuff, like the That's So Raven, the Hannah Montanas, the Wizards of Waverly Place, the Jessies of all and everything, you know what I'm saying? The Sweet Lives and everything. That's your wacky era. Then you started to evolve into more, which was kind of more of a balance of more serial type stuff, where they were trying to go back to the old Zoog days. That's when you had stuff like the Secrets of Sulphur Springs. That's when you had like, what's that show with that Asian family? When she found out that her sister is actually her mom. Is it Alex? Something, it's whatever that Asian show was. I forget what it was called. It was like literally the only Asian Disney Channel show. But I forget the name. And then if you watch it on Disney Plus, half of the episodes are gone from like the series because of one actor and stuff. And so like I forget the name of that show. But this is when stuff started to get more serious, you know what I'm saying? So Disney Channel went in kind of that route. Now they're trying to bring back more of that humor route in everything, because I guess they realized the serious stuff just isn't landing as it used to, you know what I'm saying? But when you go back to last year, and I told you this before, a lot of those Disney Channel shows got canceled after 1 or 2 seasons. I'm going off topic. Back to this show. And so I do find this show funny, you know what I'm saying? But I don't find it as funny as like the original, sadly. So when it comes to this show, Selena Gomez and David Henry are executive producers of this show. I've said it before that Selena just loves wizards. It was like her big break after like Barney, because she was trying to get with Disney Channel. She almost had her own show, a spinoff of Lizzie McGuire. They picked Hannah Montana over that show. She guest starred on Hannah Montana. That kind of put more of a footing in her Disney Channel door. And then she got her own series. And I've said it, like she just loves wizards. Like she stated a long time ago that she was in a hotel room and she turned on Disney Channel and there was no Wizards of Waverly Place reruns. And that really upset her to where she contacted the network, and that's when they made Alex versus Alex in 2013. So she loves this show, man. And I agree with everybody else. The show should have just spun off with her and her kids, but she can't do that because Selena is on another show on Hulu. And so you're not really gonna make no show out of Max because Max was as dumb as rocks. So Justin was the next candidate and everything. But I'm a little surprised once again that Disney Channel rehired him because, like, um, well, the dude got arrested at an airport for having a loaded gun in his suitcase. I am still shocked and baffled by that. It's like, dude, you're famous, but you ain't that famous and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the world is going on in your personal life where you have to take a gun around with you everywhere that you fear for your life and your family life? You know what I'm saying? And his excuse was, well, it was paid legally and everything. I don't care. Who shows up at an airport with a loaded gun? Like, seriously and stuff. I just don't get that. Man, but anyways, like, so I'm shocked and surprised by that. And so, like, then I already told you what happened many years ago, back when he was on Wizards, and he used to date Lucy Hale back in the first season. And there was like this video of him almost getting into a fight with like some people. I don't know what the heck happened. All I know, him and her left the place. And there was some person sitting down. I think he's like a singer or something like that. And his friends or like some fans started to heckle that of David. David finally got fed up and he was about to confront them, but Lucy had to like hold him back and everything. And this video is completely scrubbed online. Like, you can't find no trace of it. You can find a description on this one website, but that's about it. So I'm a little shocked and surprised Disney brought him back. I'm also a little shocked and surprised that like he wanted to play this role again, because if you ever listen to that Wizards podcast that used to be on YouTube, they said Jennifer Stone literally said he didn't like playing this role, and you can kind of tell a little bit because of Justin's like personality shift over time and everything, But then again, when you're not doing much in Hollywood, because Hollywood treat Disney Channel stars like they do Power Ranger stars. Once you do Disney Channel, Hollywood don't want you. And it's quite a shame. So I understand why he took the role back and stuff, And when they got announced that they were going to make this spinoff and that David was coming back and both him and Selena were going to executive produce and Selena was going to appear in 2 episodes, the rest of the original cast was kind of like, what? Especially David Delucci. I'm not sure how you say his last name. Who played the father, and Jennifer Stone was just kind of like, yo, we ain't heard nothing about this. So they was completely out of the loop, and I understand that the network isn't gonna let the entire original cast know this in case they might spill the beans or whatever. But you think if it got greenlit, everything's gonna go ahead and they will at least be like, hey, we would like for y'all to come back and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. And they didn't do that. So they found out along with the rest of the audience, and that was really cold. And you can see the resentment on both their faces and stuff. So then, of course, David branched out to the other David and be all like, hey, man, come back on the show. We'll love to have you, blah, blah, blah. So that's why Jerry came back for those 3 episodes and stuff. Well, 3 or 2, I can't remember. And so everybody was wondering, who else from the original series is going to come back? Not a whole lot. Basically, from the original series, it's literally just Alex, Justin, Teresa, the mom, and Jerry, the dad. And that led to a lot of speculations with a lot of fans wondering, were they simply just not asked? Or is there some type of like drama going on and stuff? Because, Jerry's in 2 or 3 episodes and Teresa only shows up for 1. But the mom is mentioned all throughout the series because I think Roman saw her in the shower by mistake and something like that, which that was just a funny lie. But like, look, I've always had a crush on the mom. You know what I'm saying? She played Hawk Girl on Justice League, the animated series. I always had a crush on her. But like the mom was mentioned all throughout the series, so everybody was waiting for her to return. Max has been mentioned all throughout the series, but he has yet to show up. And so I'm surprised Justin T. Austin has not shown up like at all in the first season, but he's been mentioned and stuff. But there's one person from the main cast who has not been mentioned and has not shown up. And that person is Jennifer Stone, aka Harper Finkel herself. And this has led to a lot of speculations that maybe she just was not invited. Now, some people assume that, because she's a nurse, that like maybe she doesn't have the time to do it. But when you used to watch the podcast and if you watch any like posts she made, it seems like she's eager to come back to reprise her role, but yet has not gotten that proverbial phone call yet. And so this has led to the speculation that maybe, just maybe, her and David Henry don't like each other and stuff. Because, and this is why I used to love that podcast, man. That girl don't hold back. She lets you know what went on the show and who liked what and who did not. And David did too. And that's why I used to love it. Some fans have said, "Ew, we don't like this. We don't like when these two go on a podcast and talk bad about the original cast or like the showrunners or the writers and blah, 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 blah." I don't care what you think. I want to hear that stuff. That's the stuff I want to hear. I want to know what really went down. You know what I'm saying? Because I already watched the show. It's already in my memory. I can always go back and rewatch it. But I want to know what happened behind the camera and stuff. And like, if it ruins my love for the show, then so be it. I mean, look at Boy Meets World. I watched Boy Meets World growing up. I love that show. I have the last season on DVD. But that podcast and all the star drama from it has really ruined the experience of that show. It sucks, but it's good to know that kind of stuff. You know? Like, and it's just like other shows. I like other shows, but some of those celebrities, they say and do bad stuff, and that does ruin it for me. Oh well, so be it. It sucks, but you gotta move on and everything. And so, like, so a lot of fans kept saying that, Jennifer will always bring up David and talked about how, like, he, what is it? He didn't really like playing the Justin character because like Justin was a dork and he didn't want to be known as that, and how like what was it? His headshot, like actors sending headshots to themselves and something about he had muscles and she didn't believe he really had muscles and something like that, and just like other stuff, like they invited him to be on the podcast, but apparently he kept refusing to be on the podcast and everything. And so like so a lot of people assume since he's an executive producer and he refused to be on the podcast and this and that, and maybe he just didn't want her to be on there. But like, the other David said some stuff too, but he let him be on the show. But how can you not have Jerry come back, especially if you're gonna have like the mom come back? But it's just kind of odd that like, okay, I get if Jennifer Stone is not on the show, but you would assume Harper would be mentioned at some point. You know what I'm saying? And Harper has not been mentioned at no point. But also Mason has not been mentioned. And this is why I say this was all just speculation, because think about it. David and Greg are actually really good friends. And Mason has not been on this show, and Mason has not been mentioned. And also, Bridget, whatever her last name is, who played Juliet, the vampire, like she hasn't been on this show and she hasn't been mentioned. And I'm pretty sure they all have a good like relationship with each other outside the show. So maybe they just didn't want to bring back a bunch of familiar faces. So maybe, Jennifer and David, maybe they do get along and everything, but maybe the reason why Harper hasn't been brought back is just because it's the first season. They're playing it safe. They don't want to extract from like the newer stars and everything, and they just don't want to bring back a bunch of familiar faces to like distract from that. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said before, it was always just fan speculation, but nobody really knows until like they actually say it. You know what I'm saying? So if they get a second season and if Harper does not show up, then you can pretty much confirm that. You know what I'm saying? Now, one thing that is not speculation as to why one person has to come back is Dan Benson. So we all know he ain't coming back, but there was a little bit of drama as the show was about to air and everything, because Dan has taken on a new job since Disney Channel, and it's not the Disney Channel family friendly type of job. And so because of that, he knows he's never going to be asked back on this show. And most likely the character of Zeke will never be mentioned. And so far, Zeke has not been mentioned. But, the only reason why I'm bringing this up because it does correlate to this show and everything. And so, like, basically, there was like this interview thing they did with the entire cast. And so, like, they asked, like, which one of these people would you like to bring back on the show? And, David Henry, he didn't say nothing wrong. Like, he just like, oh, come on now, like this person can't come back. And that's really all he said. And so when Dan got a hold of that video, he just took it to the next level and blew it completely out of proportion and everything, to where it led those two to, well, not really argue online, because David just ended up blocking Dan on social media. And yeah, so that brought a lot of negative attention to this show and everything, but it was so blown out of proportion, man. Like, come on now. Like, he knew he can't come back to this show, so why make a big fuss about it? I mean, oh, geez. So, of course, that's the last thing Disney Channel is going to want. You know what I'm saying? And so with this new show, a lot of fans were wondering, yo, what is it going to be about? We knew going in that it was going to be about Justin and his family. So like, oh wow, he has like a family now. He has 2 sons. And when they kept reading the description, I'm like, oh, okay. And when you saw the trailer, like, okay, you can tell who they're basing this character off of. But then they added in a new little thing to this show. They added the character of Billy. And apparently Billy was going to be sent to Justin so he can train her to be a better witch and everything. And so that was the synopsis that we originally got. And so when the show pilot aired and everything, it turns out more. It turns out there's this special thing about Billy, but we don't know what it is. And so it was a big mystery all throughout like the series and towards like the end and everything. And so when they added the character of Billy, I told you this before, I can go either way. I can either go with a show about Justin and his family and his kids, being wizards and stuff, or I can go the other route of Billy and this mysterious thing about her and her family. But, either way, I would have been good, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, But when the show aired in the pilot episode, fans were very confused. See, this is where the continuity stuff is really important. Justin's two kids don't have magical abilities whatsoever. And not only that, but we knew from the original series Justin did not win the competition, but he was still allowed to keep his powers, and he became the new headmaster of WizTech. So when the series started, Justin is no longer headmaster. He got fired because of a unicorn incident. But we didn't know how exactly. And they didn't wait. They waited all the way till like the 11th, 12th, or 13th episode to tell people. This was after the mid-season finale. So we had to wait the next year to find out. Not only that, but it was so confusing because it's kind of like, how does Justin even still has his powers? Because he married a mortal. Therefore, just like with Jerry, he was supposed to give up his powers and stuff. But it doesn't make no sense because Jerry won the competition, married a mortal, gave it to his brother Kelso, and Jerry has no powers. So technically, Justin should not have no powers, and you assume that when you watch the pilot. Now, I've already reviewed episodes 1 through 10, so I'm not going to go into much detail about that. But it was confusing because, you see Justin has went about over 10 something years with no magic. But then as soon as he goes back to the lair, he pulls out his wand and all of a sudden he can do magic again. And it's like, how? He should have been stripped of his powers. Also, the biggest confusion is why don't his sons have magic? And it's never really been explained. I think maybe they would have said it skips a generation or two, but that's never been the case of the original series. So because of this has left some fans kind of irked and everything. Not hurt, but irk. And because it's kind of like, we know the case of this show. A wizard has kids, the kids inherit the magical abilities, they go through the competition and see who's going to be the head wizard. And so, even though that's what the original series did, fans wanted to see that too, because it's kind of like, that's the formula and everything. But then they decided they're going to be different from the original series and not do that. And that really irritated me and stuff like that. Like, I was wondering, how far is this show gonna go if Billy's really the only person who has magic and Justin rarely does magic on the show? And in fact, Justin is rarely seen on the show because, it mostly revolves around Billy. And the two sons hang out with her and stuff. And so back last year, I said, I would have just preferred to have a show where Justin is the head wizard at WizTech and he teaches a bunch of random kids. Would have been completely different from that of the original series and stuff. But they didn't go that route. And instead, Justin's just a principal or vice principal at like a middle school or something like that. And so also, because of that, the tone of the show. See, last year I said, who exactly is this show made for? Because while I like the show, I'm not 100% feeling it. Because this is the thing that's so confusing, right? You have a show that is, this new show, I believe is rated G, I believe. And the main characters are mostly just like really, really young kids, you know what I'm saying? But when you watch the show, you assume it would be wacky, but it's not. It's just humorous. So it has a little bit of that maturity to it. But why would the show have a maturity to it if it's geared to younger people, and the kids are like the main focus of the show. Whereas in the original, I believe it's PG or PG-13, and the show started off with little kids, but then they started to grow up into like teenagers and stuff. And the show was a bit more, and the show progressed as it went on. It started off very wacky, but then it started to mature as the kids started to get older. And you see that in the third season a lot, and especially in the fourth. And so you had like a teenager-ish type show with the original, but it was more geared towards kids. But then, of course, like I said, it evolved and everything. So the tone of this new show is a little bit off for me because it's kind of like they play it too safe in a lot of episodes. The humor is not all there, and I feel like it needs to be there if you have a younger cast and you're gearing it more towards younger kids. 'Cause even David said, you know, those who grew up with the original, they're now adults and they have kids, and their kids can now watch this show. So it's geared more towards a younger audience. But the tone of it doesn't feel like it's geared towards like an audience and stuff. Like they try to throw in little kitty stuff here and there, like a flugie for like the first episode, a little monster creature thing. And it's like, okay, I get it. That looks like a kid's toy, you know, it has a kid sounding type name to it. But it's still trying to be more mature. Or then when you go on, you have pumpkin belly and everything, the little Halloween skeleton thing. And it's like, okay, you have kind of this almost preschool type, like villain type thing, and but the show is still trying to be mature and everything. Or like I think what was that episode in the second half, like some kind of best party ever type thing. And it's like, you know, Narissa, Billy's friend, you know, she comes to party with like, you know, Billy at the house and everything. And there's like this little pocket dimension box type thing that's supposed to show your greatest fears. And it's like, okay, that's mature and everything. But then they dumb it down by not really having nothing happen in there. And it's just kind of like they need to figure out their tone in this show. Who exactly is this show geared for and everything? And that's one problem going into this spin-off series. They need to figure that out. And so far in the first season, they have not figured it out. So hopefully they will figure it out in the second season. Now, another thing about this show that has kind of confused fans is just the magical side of it. It's great that they're evolving the magic because now there's newer stuff. You know, about 10 years or so has passed. So they're gonna, like, the Wizarding World is gonna evolve. So I get that. And it's cool that they evolve from, like, you know, the stuff from, like, the original series. The original series probably more wacky. And so therefore was the magic and the magical creatures and stuff. And the magical, like, accessories and stuff. Now, instead of using your cell phone, instead of using your wand like a cell phone and going beep boop boop bop bop boop bop boop beep, boop, something like that, now you can either send like a message through like kind of like this magical butterfly thing, or you can have like you can contact somebody kind of like a hologram on your wand, and it's kind of like FaceTiming them. So I like that improvement. You know what I'm saying? I also like this whole traveling through like a mirror type thing. Like you can travel through your mirror and they can go to like, you know, the layer. But here's the thing. The layer does not make no sense no more for this show. Because like that's where Billy is supposed to train because Justin's supposed to teach her, you know, because she's supposed to be like this big, powerful wizard. She's lived in the wizarding world all her life and all this and that, right? But the problem is we rarely see Billy train to be a wizard. There's a couple of episodes, and I mean a couple of episodes, where you would actually see Justin teach her how to use her magic. This is very confusing because of the simple fact that this was supposed to be the whole premise of the show. The whole premise that was originally sketched out was that Billy goes to live with Justin. He teaches her about magic. It's even stated that in the pilot episode, yet you don't really see it and everything. You rarely see her learning about potions, learning about equipment, learning about spells. And mostly, if he teaches her something, he'll just tell her, grab your wand, say this spell, and do that. And she does it. And it's just kind of like, that's not really teaching her. That's just telling her what to do. And somehow she just figures it out like really quickly. And so, like, I don't get that part. So also, if she's been living in the wizarding world all her life and going from school to school, shouldn't she know a lot about magic and like spells and this and that to where she doesn't need to be taught? So so the whole layer thing is just to tie it into the original series, but I feel like it's not needed because they don't really use it that much. And it's kind of like if you're not going to teach her. Also, it's still in a different part of New York because they're in Staten Island now, and they're not on Waverly Place, like the strip mall area. So they have to constantly travel to there and back. And Max owns that place. He's a millionaire now. I'll get that a little bit later. And so like, I don't know. I personally, for me, I feel like the layer is not needed. The layer is something that was more tightly connected to the original series. It was connected to their home and workplace. It's where you saw the kids learn to do magic. However, in the original series, you really only see them being taught how to use magic in the first season. By the second season, this is when they started going to more personal issues and more like spin-off type, not spin-off, but like crossover type stuff. And if you saw them in the layer, it's mostly just the kids goofing around. By the third season, you rarely saw them there. So I just feel like for the first season, they should have kept the layer like not shown, you know what I'm saying? Now in the second season, the layer is gonna play a big part of the show because now the boys have magic. I'll get to that a little bit later. And so like, I just feel like in the first season, there was no point in really bringing in the layer unless you was going to bring it in for one episode so Justin can get his wand, and that's just about it. You know what I'm saying? Plus they had to remake the entire layer because, after the show ended, they had to take everything down. To me, it still looks the same. It does look a little bit smaller, and there's now a purple bluish filter on it and stuff to give it more of a magical feel. But also what's really odd is that in order to get to the Wizarding World, they still have to go through the portal in the layer and stuff. And it's kind of like, why can't they just go through a mirror? Or why can't they just teleport themselves there? It's little odd things like that that has continuity problems for me, at least. But other things I like to see elevated in the show that they've done with magic is, say, like the Wizarding World itself. There is now a wizard tribunal, which there was never before. There were other organizations, but there was never a tribunal. They're kind of like a secret service type thing, but they've had secret services type stuff in the past. This is just another one they've added onto the show. I mean, there are monster hunters, there's a council, there's something else. I can't remember what it was. It was like these two, it was like a goblin and this wizard. They're kind of like men dressed in black, and they're supposed to stop magical occurrences from happening in the real world and stuff. And sometimes they will recruit young wizards and stuff. But the tribunal is a brand new thing, and that's what Alex is a part of. They're kind of like a secret service police type force type thing. And it really shows her maturity and everything, because this is Alex we're talking about. But then later in the finale, Justin joins it as well. And so it makes you wonder how he's going to do that, teach at middle school and teach his kids about magic. This is why I feel like the script has been rushed. It's almost like the new creators of the show never watched the original series, just watched a couple of episodes and just did their own thing. This is why getting the original writers would have been a heck of a lot smarter. But like now we see in the Wizarding world, a lot of places have like a force field dome around it and dragons fly around it. I like that visual effect. I think it's cool, but it does go more into the realm of like Harry Potter, and you don't want this show to be exactly like Harry Potter. But you know, so you have the Wizard Tribunal type place, and that has a force field, and you have dragons flying over it. Now we know dragons are a thing because of the simple fact Uncle Kelzo said that if you expose magic, the dragons will snap your thumbs and everything. And so, like, but that's not only where we see a force field in dragons, we also see it around like the marketplace in that one episode. And so, like, there's a force field around that, and there are dragons flying around that. But why exactly? Are they on lockdown? Is something bad happening? We know that there is an evil force that wants to capture Billy. This could be why they're on high alert. But there's been other cases where there's been evil wizards and evil magical stuff, and they've never done that in the original series. But maybe they've changed their protocols now. And so, like, um, so I do like that visual effect and that new like upgrade to like magic and stuff. But one thing that is kind of confusing is that there are lots of spells and lots of potions and dust and all this other stuff from the original series that do not make it into this series. And it's just kind of like, okay, you're in a sticky situation. Why don't you just use this spell from the original series or use this erase dust type stuff or undo dust as I think it's called, or like, you know, this trinket or this thing or this object to solve whatever it is you're doing in this new show, because it would have been a whole lot helpful, but they don't do that. And so that's a bit of a problem because, like, when you're a huge fan of this show and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, you did this thing that's messed up with magic. Well, just get yourself some undo dust and undo that. Nah, we don't want to do that because we don't know nothing about the original series. We're gonna write something new. Now, one thing that pisses me off with this new series is something that was established in the original, and that is the exposure of magic. The exposure of magic is supposed to be a huge thing and a big no-no. And this series just kind of like, we don't care. And so there's been multiple times in just one season of this new show that has exposed magic. Now, Justin's family finding out, that's no big deal because, you know, Teresa knew and everything. But Justin kept it a secret from them because he didn't want them to know nothing about the magical world. Okay, fine, whatever. Then once they knew, they started to expose it. They exposed it at their school with like the laptops and stuff. Roman muscle arms he had, and all of a sudden the muscle arms just kind of disappeared. Then you had the magical float that Billy reconstructed, and it flew over the city very high up. So most people probably didn't see until people did see it, because Billy and them were throwing water balloons at people. Then the U.S. Air Force sent out like a jet to like bring down the float and everything. So not only did they expose magic to the general populace, and remember that Gianna is like a news reporter type person, and so that got like captured and stuff. But now the US military knows about wizards and stuff. And they even attacked the jet fighter and stuff. And it's just like there's no consequences to it. Then, you have Winter finding out about magic in like her very first appearance. Then you have Winter going to like the Wizarding World. You have Gianna going to the Wizarding World. You have them saying, "Oh, well, I'm not magical, so I don't care." And then as they're telling that to magical beings and everything, and there's just been so much exposure to magic, yet it doesn't seem to be a big thing in this show and everything. And that was a huge like tipping point of like the original series. Because yeah, there were times where they exposed magic and there was no big thing as well. Like when they fly around on a carpet, you literally see them flying around like the city and stuff. But my theory is that when you do that, it's cloaked so nobody can see you. Same way with Juliet flying with her vampire wings and nobody can see her, because I feel like there's some type of magical enchantment that cloaks it from the naked eye. Then there's Harper knowing about magic, but that was the whole, okay, they had to like, they got tired of hiding it from her. They could like come out with some better episodes with her knowing about magic, this and that. And nobody in the Wizarding world really found out because Harper really wasn't that stupid to go and tell somebody. And so whenever she was in the Wizarding world, they just assumed she was like a wizard and stuff like that. But then there were literal episodes where Kelso was all like, yo, they'll snap your thumbs if you expose magic. Then there was in season 4, I believe it was, or maybe it was towards the end of season 3, Wizards exposed and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like they made a big deal about that and crap. And so it's just kind of odd that they would kind of be like, we don't care if magic gets exposed in this new series. It's not a big thing. But it is a big thing because this is a spin-off of the original series. And that's a major rule. And also, I doubt that, like, in this new series that like they're okay with humans knowing about them, because if they were, why would there be a whole like tribunal task force that's supposed to stop magical occurrences messing around in the real world? You know what I'm saying? Like when that Squawk started doing all kind of magical stuff and made it snow and all this and other stuff, you know what I'm saying? Now, one thing I've noticed about this show is that, like I said before, Disney Channel is starting to go back in time with that of like, that wacky era of Disney. Like I said before, this show isn't that wacky. It's like watered down wacky, but they are going back to that era of Hannah Montana, Wizards, That's So Raven, and so on and so on, where like, your main character has like impeccable fashion sense and everything. They really do a great job of dressing Billy. Her outfits are always on point. Her hair has so many different designs. Well, in the first half, it's the same design, but by the second half, she's in so many different hairstyles and everything. And I do appreciate they giving her black hairstyles. That's one thing a lot of black actresses complain about Hollywood and stuff. But her fashion sense, you will never see a typical teenager dressed like this, or even a child or preteen or whatever. So they're going back to that era of having their stars dressed like very fashionable, trying to get the audience, young audience, to be all like, mommy, 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 buy me this outfit and everything, Also, what they're doing is they're bringing back their main stars doing the whole singing thing. They have not come out with no music video of the actress who plays Billy singing, but I'm trying to think of her name. Janice, something Brown. She does sing the intro, and that's something that has not been done in many, many, many years since like the Jessie show, or probably Bunked. I'm not sure who sung Bunked. It might have been the dude from the first season, maybe not. But yes, Janice Leanne Brown does sing the intro along with Selena Gomez. Janice does the main part while Selena comes in towards the end and just repeats the same loop. And like I said before, this hasn't been seen since Jesse. And Jesse ended a couple of years back. You know what I'm saying? So it was probably like, what was it? 7, 8, 10 years ago, something like that. I feel like it. I don't know how long it's been since Jesse. But anyway. And so they're going back to that Disney formula and everything, which I understand it was their most profitable and everything. But at that same time, do you really want to repeat that formula? Because during that era of Disney, those kids were bad. They had too much money, too much fame, and too much free time on their hands. And they kept trying to make them into not only TV stars, movie stars, but music artists as well. And that was too much stress on those young little kids. And we now see how they have grown up to be, because many of them have had run-ins with the law. So I don't want them to repeat this formula and get this new cast overly stressed and everything. And any other new Disney stars coming into their own Disney shows and stuff. Now, one thing I think I forgot to mention is that the second half of this season is a heck of a lot better than the first half. The first half's not bad. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's enjoyable, but it's kind of soft. The second part of this season is a bit more enjoyable because they get more into what Wizards is kind of about. Going on adventures, using your magic a whole lot more, trying to figure stuff out, trying to figure stuff out about yourself. So I enjoyed that part a bit more. Also, I've noticed something after rewatching the original series. In the first season, they rarely use their wands. They mostly use hand magic or just chant something. But it's around sometime in the second season, because they do use it in the first season, don't get me wrong. But they use their hands a whole lot more in the first season. But by the second season onward, they just start like using their wands a lot more. And, in this show, they always use a wand when using magic, which I always prefer. What's the point in having a prop if you can't use it? And once again, they need to get on the merch. This show needs merch, man, because they got some cool stuff from the original series and this series that, a lot of fans would love to buy. Billy's wand is amazing and everything. Like, her wand looks so good and stuff. I like the little crystal thing at like the end. I like the little wood that like a little vine that curls around the actual wand. Like, it's a nice wand. Now, before I get into the individual characters and who they're based off of and stuff like that, just a little bit of the rundown of like this show. I'm not gonna touch down on the second half of every episode like I did in the first. I'll just give like the basic gist of it all. So basically what it is that they have to be different from the original series. And one way they did that was having it revolve around Justin and having him have a normal human type family with no magic whatsoever. And that's the way he's lived his life for about 10 years until Alex comes back and be all like, look, I need you to watch this young wizard by the name of Billy. And I'm going to need you to teach her some magical stuff. And yeah, like there's a big prophecy about her and there's some evil people after her. All right, see ya, bye. And so that was normally the premise of like the show. So it's kind of like, okay, you have this non-magical family. You have Justin, who's a former wizard, but still is technically a wizard and everything. He lost his job. And he's having to take in this brand new little girl. And this little girl is supposed to be kind of like a Alex type, persona. And so you think, okay, well, it's going to be kind of like the original, right? Well, a little bit yes and a little bit no. Billy is kind of like Alex, and there's a lot of chaos that happens, but for the most part, she's kind of is and kind of not. And so the family, they get exposed to magic. They now know about it. They think it's cool and everything. And we get to see these like adventures that they have, kitty type adventures where it's kind of like, It's Billy hanging out with like Milo and Roman, the sons of Justin, and also that of Winter, who is a friend of Roman's from school, but now becomes the best friend of that of Billy. And so there's always these like magical adventures that are happening. Say like, the tablets at school are brainwashing people, so they have to destroy them. Or like Billy extracting the wisdom tooth of Justin, which takes away his wisdom, and he acts like a teenager, a wild teenager and stuff. Or you have an episode where it's like a Halloween episode where it's like this traditional pumpkin belly thing, and so they cause it to come to their home, and they get inside the belly, and so they have to like find a magical way out of there. Or like say what are other episodes? Well, those are more from the first half. I've been to the second half. Second half is like, they're throwing like a party, and it's all these magical creatures and fairies and like little werewolves and wizards and stuff like that. And there's like this little magical box that goes into a pocket dimension. It's supposed to bring out like your haunted worst fear type thing. And it's not really all that scary and this and that. Or you'll have an episode, say, like, what was it, Best Quest Ever, where it's like, I don't know, I think it's like Billy's birthday, and so she assumes Justin's gonna put her on this quest. She assumed he'll just send her to a library, but then the evil wizard person, they sent her to like a cave. She's there with Roman and Milo, and it's a pretty cool episode. It's a nice cave, some nice special effects. It's pretty daring, like it's kind of like Indiana Jones, like, you know what I'm saying? And they have to retrieve like an amulet in their thing. And so that was like a really fun episode. Then there is like, Battle of the Wands, where basically it's just this thing where they go to kind of like this club and they have to battle it out with this other duo and who can do like the best spells and stuff like that, Or an episode like, I'm trying to think of this one. Oh, well, they kind of get sucked into kind of like a board game kind of thing, and like it's family game night, and it's kind of like Clue, so it's kind of fun episode. But when you watch all these episodes, you realize they're just watered down episodes from the original series. The original series would go there, you know what I'm saying? Like Alex journal diary thing she had that Gigi got stuck into. So what happened? They had to go and follow her. And when they went into her diary, it looks the way it does on paper. Like it's this like sketched out looking like world, and the CGI and the practical effects, and it's really cool. And it's really exciting, and it's very visually well done for the early 2000s. But then you see this show, and it's kind of like they'll do family game night, and while it's an okay episode, it's just kind of unvisually appealing. And that's the problem with this show. It's not like they have enhanced like the CGI with like the magic. No longer is it that ball of light. It's now like mist and like smoke and everything. I do miss that ball of light though. They could add both. Come on now. But they've really improved on the CGI when it comes to magic. But when it comes to visuals and like episodes supposed to be more magical, they've really dropped the ball because they played it too safe with this show. It's almost like they didn't want to give them the budget to do stuff like that. But if they went there, I mean, heck, they went to heaven and see. Sorry about that, my battery died. But I mean, in season 4, they went to heaven and everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they went inside like a diary. They had like a race car track type episode, and stuff like that. And so basically, like, So Billy is having like this family experience and everything, and supposed to be learning like magic from like Justin, but is not really shown. But then later on, she finds out like um there's like a prophecy about her and everything on why she's been sent to like wizarding school after wizarding school, and why she doesn't, well, we don't know what the heck happened to her parents, but why her parents are not like in this show. And it's because it's prophesized that she will destroy the world and everything. And so that really worries her and stuff like that. Then we know for a fact there's a dark wizard that's after her, but we don't know who it is. But then it's later revealed towards the end of the very last episode, or last two. And so she has to defeat this dark wizard, or her power is going to get taken away by this dark wizard. And I had speculations of who this dark wizard could have been. I wanted the wildest theory ever. And so I was hoping it was Justin's wife that could explain how he was able to keep his magic and why his sons don't have magic. They could have went there, but they don't think that far outside the box because they play it too safe and everything. But then I started to think, okay, what about somebody from the original series? There's Stevie, is she really dead? There's other like evil people, and so then I started thinking, nah, it's not gonna be her. She's too much of like a famous actress and an Oscar award winner and everything. It's not gonna be her. But then it turned out to be somebody who's related to them. And I'll get to them a little bit later. And so they kind of harped back on season one, where it's this like evil wizard, and they want to steal the powers from like a really like powerful like wizard. And so that's what they want to do to Billy. So there's like this device, and it's just kind of like, well, that's the same thing that happened back in like what, season one or the original series and stuff. If you want to be different from the original series, be different from the original series. But anyways, after they defeat that person and trap that person in a device that sucks their magic out, the magic is getting drained out, and then it hits both Milo and Roman. Then all of a sudden, in a surprise like thing, we see both of them pick up wands and like help defeat this evil wizard. And their mom and dad's like, how the world are you doing this? And they're all like, we have no idea. And I have problems with that. One, it's just not earned, and two, how do they even know how to do that magical spell if they never used magic before? Well, technically Roman has, but it was, but so I can understand maybe he might know how, but he literally says he doesn't know how. But then Milo shouldn't know, period. But anyway, so it's mostly those two who defeat the evil wizard dude. But then Billy comes in at the last moment and says like a spell and helps like trap the evil wizard and like, the amulet and everything. And it's just one of those things that felt very, 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 very rushed and everything. Because there was all this hype, they started sprinkling it in throughout like the series. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, the boys get powers now. And they're mostly like, when they fight wizards now they do it the Harry Potter style, where it's like that long beam of electrical energy connecting to both wands. But it doesn't look as cool as Harry Potter because, they're on a TV budget. But like they're too close to each other. You're supposed to be far away, so it looks cooler. So when you're that close in proximity to the other wizard, it's just not a cool effect. I think it's called Incognito. Not, I can't remember the name of it in Harry Potter. It's been a while since I watched a Harry Potter movie. And so like, yeah, it's just like if you're gonna do that magical effect, push them far apart. Don't have them so close to each other where they can like breathe on each other, But she comes in the last moment, says a spell because Justin knows the spell. So she says it because it's not like he's teaching her or anything. He just like, hey, do this right now. She's like, all right, I'll do it right now. And so the evil wizard gets trapped in like the amulet and everything. Then, like, one of the persons that's supposed to be part of the tribunal, we see that that person's possessed somehow. So this is going to lead into season 2. But that's not only that's going to lead into season 2. Now that Milo and Roman now have magic because they stole it from like the evil wizard dude, which, ooh, this pisses me off now because it's kind of like. Here's the thing, I said this before. When this show first started, I wanted the two sons to have magic and go through the competition. Now, since they have magic, it's been revealed, hey, you have to compete in the Wizards competition. And they're all like, well, what the heck is that? Because Justin's never told them. And so they're all like, oh, well, you know, I have to teach you all this magical stuff. And then you're going to take like a huge test. And one of you going to keep your powers while the other one is going to lose their powers. And so, of course, Roman's all like, oh, it's going to be me, being the whole Justin's thing. And so I'm just kind of like, this is what I wanted to see in the beginning of the show. But since they didn't do that and they had both boys not be magical for whatever weird reason, I'm all like, okay, fine. I can move on from that. I can adjust. And, you know, months have passed and 2 years have now passed. So I'm used to this new formula of the boys not having magic and Billy, the only one having magic, and them not going through the competition in this new format of the show, only for them to go back to the original series blueprint and now do it. So I'm like, oh my God, now, like, y'all just got me used to them not having powers. Now I gotta get used to them having powers and crap. Make up your minds, man. But now they added in a new twist. Because Billy is acting like part of the family, the rules have now been altered to where she has to join the family competition and she has to join it with the Russo boys. So now that means, and they literally state this in the show, if Milo or Roman wins the competition, Billy loses her powers. How is that possible? That's never been done in the history of the show where like an outsider comes in and joins the family and has to go through the competition. Billy is a single child, therefore she gets to keep her powers no matter what. But now they done it to where Milo and Roman could possibly be like the family wizard and she could lose her magical abilities. That's crappy. But since this is Disney Channel and Disney Channel revolves around females, most likely just like with Alex, she'll keep her magic. And since this show is supposed to revolve around her, then most likely she'll keep her magic. However, maybe they might try to change things and change it. If they do that, that's gonna suck because this show revolves around her. Not to mention, she's the first black predominantly character on this show. Like in the past, if you ever watched the old Wizard show, then you know one thing. Diversity was not always their strong point. They were extremely diverse in having their very first Mexican and Italian family on Disney Channel. However, it was not always supposed to be that. It was supposed to be that of a white family until Selena won the role. And since Selena is mixed with Italian and Mexican, they decided, hey, let's just make the family that way. But then when you watch the show, you realize there's nothing but white people all in the show for all 4 seasons. Until they're all like, we kind of got to change that up. So they added one Asian girl one time for like a guest appearance, and that's about it. Then they had like 2 black girls appear in the show. One in like the 3rd season, I believe, and then the 4th one with the whole angels thing. And because you know when they went to the whole angels versus wizards and dark angels and stuff like that, you know, China's Anne McLean, I believe her name is. She was a black character on that show because they rarely had any. They introduced, like, the uncles. One's Italian, one's like Mexican. So that's like, the only other Mexicans and Italians they had on the show. But and then the grandmother and stuff. But other than that, it was just like an all white cast with all white characters and stuff. So if Billy loses her powers, that's gonna suck. You know what I'm saying? Also, something I've noticed with this show is that, like, there's no emphasis on race on this show, but yet it's a blended family. There are no white people on this show in terms of the main cast. You have Billy, who's mixed with black and something else. You have Winter, who's her best friend, who's black. And then you have the blended family of the Russos that's supposed to be Mexican Italian, but there are more Italians on the show than there are Mexicans, which is a twist from the original series because there were more Latinos on that show than there were Italians. There were only 2 Italians on that show and 3 Latinos and stuff. Here it's now like the entire family is like, Italian. 2 of the stars like Greek Italian. And I think the dude who plays Milo might be Latino, but I'm not really sure. And so, like, you think, oh, wow, you have like this blended, like Italian, Latino-ish type family and 2 black characters. But there's never nothing about race on this show. Now, the original series didn't really touch on race either because it's a Disney Channel show, but they still made an effort to let you know, hey, there are Mexicans and Italians on this show. They mention it a couple of times that they come from a Mexican-Italian family. Here on this show, there's never no mention of that. In the original series, you would have Teresa speak Spanish every once in a while, and she even tried to get Alex to speak Spanish. Here on this show, you would hear them call their grandmother by the Latino name, but that's about it. And it's like that one time. And other than that, you never hear them address their Mexican heritage or their Italian heritage. Like, never. And you don't never hear Billy or Winter saying anything about being black. And stuff. And that's just kind of odd. Because in the original series, at least they did touch on that. You know what I'm saying? Just like a little. But here, they're not doing it whatsoever. And that's because of Disney Channel. They've been rolling back on DEI representation type stuff way before the government made them and stuff. Because I said it before, all their diverse shows from last year, canceled and everything. And like the whole Pixar thing, they told them, hey, look, stop focusing on representation and just make like a movie and stuff. And so you're not gonna have predominantly like, or you will have like black characters, Asian characters, Italian characters, Mexican characters, but they're not gonna touch about their personal struggles in life because Disney doesn't want to do that no more because they're scared now and everything. And so I just find it odd that you have this extremely blended show with Italians, blacks, and maybe 1 Latino and everything, but yet they don't ever mention nothing about it and stuff, and that's just kind of odd. So I really would love if they could just mention their culture a bit more, but hey, it is what it is. So the characters in the show, I might as well start with the guest appearance ones first. You have Alex played by Selena Gomez, and she has now returned only for like 2 or 3 episodes. And we all knew this going in, but some people act like they didn't. That's what the internet is for. And Alex is a very changed person. She's more mature. She still has her cattiness from like, picking on Justin. That's only because, she's his younger sister and stuff. But she's a lot more mature. She's now in the Wizard Tribunal. We don't hear no mention of her doing art or anything like that. But she still likes to pick on Justin and stuff like that. But other than that, she has a different like vibe to her. She dresses more mature. She dresses like an adult. She dresses almost like a business person. Even when she's wearing her casual clothes, it's very business casual and stuff. And this is why I will wish that she would be Billy's mom and just erase Billy's memory and everybody else's memory of it. She has that kind of mom vibe with her in this show. But being on the tribunal, she knows of the prophecy and she wants Billy to be with Justin so he can help protect her and help train her, because out of any other wizard, Justin is pretty much the only person she trusts in everything. Jerry and Teresa. So we first saw Jerry pop up when he's kind of like this person who gives advice in the wizarding world and stuff like that. We now know that Teresa plays like tennis and stuff like that. And for the most part, they're just the lovable grandparents who love their grandkids, who make guest appearances in the show. I think Jerry made 2 or 3, and she's only made 1. And it's so fun to have them back and everything, because like they were such the heart of like the show, and they're giving advice to the new characters, and I just like that a lot. Max, who we don't see, but we know he's a millionaire now for making tons of like sandwich shops and stuff. This does play into the original series when he took over the sandwich shop, and not only that, but he came up with that like $1 million sandwich that he forgot how he made. I just hate that somebody who is as dumb as rocks, so dumb they can't function, is a millionaire now. That's like telling people, hey, little kids, you can be stupid too, and you don't have to learn nothing, but when you grow up, you can be a millionaire. It's kind of like Alex and be like, hey, you can be a slacker, you can be a bad girl, but you can grow up to be on this like special secret security force type thing. And I hate that. So Justin, I can pretty much say that I did not expect really this show to spin off with Justin. And for the most part, a lot of fans didn't want Justin either. And that's because of how the Justin character was portrayed in the original series. He has about, 3 different personalities for the most part in the original series. In the first season, he started off as kind of like this very smart, older brother who would help his younger sister out even though she doesn't deserve it, because he didn't want to see bad stuff happen. But he had a little bit of juvenileness in him where he likes to pull pranks on his younger sister. A typical young boy Disney Channel thing to do. Then by the second season, he just became like a horrible character. He was meaner, he was grumpier, and he would just insult people all the time. He would insult like Harper, Alex, even his parents, and Max. He was just like a mean character in season 2. In season 3 is odd. In season 3, he becomes this huge, overly like dopey, like nerdy, geeky person, and a person with no backbone or spine, and even Alex can intimidate him and everything. He just became this big goober. Now in season 4, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't rewatched that yet, but he's always had those different type of personalities. And so like, because of that, he always rubbed people the wrong way when it comes to like the fandom. And so like, pretty much he is still the exact same person he was before. He's a little bit, he's mostly more his season 3 counterpoint, counterpart, but like a little touch of season 2. So it's like he's dorky and everything, but he has a touch of meanness to him because he has to be stern because he is now a father now. However, he's really only ever mean to that of Billy, because Billy is the Alex counterpart of the show and everything. And for the most part, he was just like a nice, lovable, like father who would be a little stern to his sons, but ground them and stuff like that. But for the most part, he's still just that big dork. It's just now he's older now. I wish they would have changed his appearance, like with his hair, because Justin Henry, when he left the show, he had like a variety of different looks to him. I think at one point he had a beard, he had shaggier hair at one point. I wish they would have had that instead of trying to have him duplicate his Justin hairstyle from back in the day. He dressed as more mature and everything. In the older show, he would dress kind of like a cool hip nerd kind of, I guess you could say, but here he's just very much in like a mature kind of like way. He has 2 sons, a loving wife and everything, and for the most part he doesn't really teach Billy all that magical stuff. Sometimes he's barely in the show. He's really just there to connect to the original series. So if he's there to teach, I'm assuming by season 2, he's going to teach a whole lot more, because now he has 3 wizards to teach magic to, and his sons don't know the first thing about it. So he's finally going to do that. Now, as for the whole Wiz Tech thing, it's been looming all over the show about how and why he got fired. He just said the unicorn incident, but they don't explain what the heck happened until the second half of like the season. And so like, I assumed that it was something Justin did, because here's Justin in the original series. He's this big, smart guy who overachievement causes him to be cocky and everything, and to look down on people who are less smart than him. So for him to lose his job and to have him look emotional when he told Alex how he lost his job, that was a depth I was not expecting this new show to take, and I liked it. So in the second half of the season, we finally get the big reveal about what happened to Justin, right? And so like, it turns out he didn't even make a mistake. It was this wizard named Alistair Goodspeed, who is kind of like his assistant or something like that. He wanted Justin's job. So when the whole unicorn thing happened, he's the one who caused that, and then he spelled Justin's wand to cause like havoc, right? And so because of altering his wand, which I don't understand how that could affect it, but hey, whatever, it's magic, so I guess you can make whatever rules you want to. It caused a big chaos, and then the unicorn incident and blah, 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 blah. Then the reason why Justin forgot it is because he spelled Justin's mind so he would forget. The way we found out is because of Roman and Billy. They got grounded by Justin, and he said, don't be irresponsible in magic, because something like he never was growing up, which, you know, he was. And so like, they decided, you know what, they don't believe him. They went inside his mind and they found the footage. Now, Alistair stopped working at some point as the head master of WizTech and tried to get into the tribunal, but like, you know, he was unable to get into it. This right here really pissed me off when I found this out, and I told y'all about that a long time ago when I found it out, because they made it seem like this big bad thing that Justin did, his failure, and all it wasn't even him. It was somebody who set him up. This was a chance for them to give him some depth, to give him some real growth, and a chance to elevate this show and mature it and everything. Now, I know this is Disney Channel. They don't always go that mature route, but every once in a while they will, just like they did with the original Wizard show when it came to Mason and Alex falling in love with him and having to like let him go, and like the whole Juliet thing. There are times they can really tug on your heartstrings and stuff. And the thing about Justin is a perfectionist, and he's very egotistical, and he's very cocky. He thinks he's perfect at everything, but then it frustrates him when things come very easily to Alex and he has to put in all the work of studying, and she's just able to, like, you know, mess up and then fix it just by pure luck or whatever, or he has to fix her mistakes and stuff. So this was a real huge missed opportunity to give him some real character growth and development about 10 something years later, or 8, or however many years it's been, you know? I don't like the fact they went the safe route, and I don't like the fact that it's a cop-out. But David Henry is, you know, an executive producer, so, you know, if he didn't want his character to go that route, he has a say in it because he's putting money into the production and stuff. And, you know, like I said before, it would have elevated his character because on the original show, he kept bopping around from like geeky brother to like nerdy brother to like grumpy brother to like flat out mean brother and everything. And you just never knew what kind of Justin you was gonna get per season and stuff. And I bet you anything, back when David Henry was an actor on the show, I bet you he went to the writers or showrunner and be like, do we have to have Justin go down this route? Can we just have him do this thing or something a little cool or give him a love in, like, because all actors do it. And if it's true he really didn't like this role, then I can see him doing something like that, you know? And after finding out, he just doesn't really care. He's happy where he is and stuff. But the thing is, he's like a vice principal at like this middle school. But the thing is, we rarely see him doing vice principal stuff. Like, really, why give him that job if y'all are barely gonna go there? And it's because the show doesn't revolve around him. And, you know, when you feel like it kind of should, because it's the one that's spin off into him, you know what I'm saying? Like, why make him a supporting character in his own spin off? That's kind of what happened to Family Matters. Family Matters was a spin-off where Harriet was on another show called, no, not Three's Company, Perfect Strangers. And she got her own spin-off. And then, but the main person of the show was like her husband. And that was kind of weird. But then when Steve Urkel came around, he took over the show. And that caused the original actress to leave when it was technically supposed to be her spin-off show. And so we don't see him like, you know, doing the vice principal stuff. We rarely see him teaching Billy magic. So it's kind of like, what was really the point of him in season 1? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so basically he's just there to be a parent, hang out with his wife, do stuff off screen with her, and like, you know, this and that. And so like, but he does care about Billy and everything, but he's very stern to her. Like I said, he's more stern to her than he is his own kids. And I don't know how I feel about that, mainly because he's not her real dad. You know what I'm saying? Gianna, played by Mimi Giannopoulos. I love this character so much. First of all, the actress is gorgeous. All right, I love Disney Channel. They pick some great moms over the years. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, she of course is like the Teresa of the show. She is the mother and everything. And the thing I like about her as opposed to Teresa is that she's totally okay with the whole magic thing. Like, Teresa hated magic, but she loves, like, she don't necessarily love it, but she's okay with it. She can accept it, like, you know what I'm saying? And the thing about her is that it just doesn't bother her. Teresa legit hated magic and stuff. And wizard this and creatures this and that and teleporting and all that. So I like how supportive she is of her husband's, like, you know, secret lifestyle and everything, you know. Another thing I like about her is that we actually get to see her interact with the kids a lot. And not just when they get in trouble, unlike Teresa. She actually hangs out with her kids and she doesn't boss them around. She's very happy-go-lucky and everything. And like, but mostly she hangs around Milo because Roman's normally with that of Billy. But like, it is nice to see her interact with like Milo and help him whenever he needs something. Or like, because it's mostly him she hangs out with. It's kind of like how the Teresa and Max things was, because he's always hang out with his dad and mom in the first season until he started getting a bit older and just started doing his own thing. And another thing I like about her is her interaction with both Billy and that of Winter. It's cool to see her because, the whole female dynamic thing. And it's just like she feels like a mom to them, even though she's not. Because, like, Harper never felt like one of the family. Even when Harper started to live there, and how they always talked about how they consider Harper to be their real daughter, and not Alex bad behind. And everything. But I just never felt that. Like, you know what I'm saying? But here I like feel it and stuff. Because when that tablet episode happened, she was right there busting tablets along with them and stuff, trying to like help save the kids and stuff like that. And you don't even have to ask her twice. She just goes at it and everything. It would be nice if she had a little bit more interaction with Roman, but like I said before, he's mostly tied up with like Billy. But I do like the fact that she is a mother figure to like even the kids that are not her own, because it really does make Billy feel like one of the family. Like you truly feel that way, but she feels more like a cousin than an actual little sister. You know what I'm saying? But I do like that dynamic. Now, I don't know if this was intentional or what, but even though she is the Teresa of the show, she also feels a little bit like the Harper of the show because of her appearance. She has reddish hair, just like Harper does. Harper's body weight went up and down, and they have like a similar body weight. Also, they both like Justin. Also, she dresses in tons of skirts and tons of dresses, and sometimes her dresses and skirts have goofy figures on them, like a cow one time. It was this one episode she was with Milo, and they was in the lair, and that little girl was there who found out about magic, and she had a dress with cows on it. And she wears her hair up, and Harper used to always sometimes wear her hair up. It's like they got a Harper replacement for the Harper replacement of Harper. Because Winter is the Harper replacement, but she looks like the Harper replacement and everything. So this is more salt added to the wound of Jennifer Stone not being on the show. Yeah. Now, one problem I do have with this character is she found out about magic way too fast. With her being a reporter and everything, that would have been so great if she suspected something strange is going on in her family and she's doing the investigative type thing. So that's something they really lost when they just introduced magic to her, like in like the first or second episode and stuff. 'Cause she doesn't really do her job that much. You never really see her at her job. You always saw Jerry and Teresa at their job and stuff. But yeah, and also it is nice when she hangs out with Justin. Even though they don't have that much screen time, but it's fun when they went to like the magical world or wizard world and they went to that little marketplace shop, and he was pissing off that Cyclops and she was trying to help him by looking like a troll. She looks great in the color purple. I still wish my theory was right about her being the evil wizard and trying to get her magic back, and that's why the boys don't have magic. It just would have elevated her character into a completely different direction. Billy, played by Janice Leanne Brown. So I was really shocked when they added like a black character to be the main character of this show, because it spun off with that of Justin, so I assumed he would be like the main person, but they spun it off with her, which is really cool. Billy is a really interesting character. She is the Alex of the show, but in a way she's not. Alex was the original bad main character girl in Disney Channel. Not the original bad girl. I believe that might have been Kate from Lizzie McGuire. But she is the first Disney Channel main star girl who, the show revolves around, where she's just bad to the bone and everything. Like, she does a lot of bad stuff. And so they emulated that onto that of Billy, but then very early on in the season, you realize she's not exactly like Alex. She's a heck of a lot more nicer and considerate, like when she wanted to cook the entire family like breakfast. But they still try to make her into the Alex, so they have her misuse her magic in whatever nefarious way she wants to on stuff like that. She's always breaking the rules and she's always having to like fix it. But other than that, she's not really like Alice, which once again, I wish to God they just would have made her her own character, which I'll get to that towards the end of my video. So that's something that's always bugged me about all these characters. They're basically knockoff versions of the original. And so the thing about her straight early on is that we learn there's a prophecy about her and there's evil looking for her, but we don't know why. Now, one thing that's fascinating about her is she's lived her entire life in the Wizarding world, and this is her first time in the real world, and she doesn't know what nothing is. I like that naivete because of the simple fact everything is so foreign to her, like something simple, like, you know what I'm saying? But it's odd that she doesn't know anything about the mortal world because it's kind of like, how could she not? Like wizards in the original series that lived in the Wizarding world also knew about the mortal world, but it's fascinating because it gives her character something different and makes her her own, you know what I'm saying? We also find out that she has to sleep with this type of like helmet type thing that contains her magic because she okay, it's not sleepwalking, it's sleep magicking or something like that. Like she always casting spells when she's asleep. So when she had a mortal sleepover, she didn't want to wear that headpiece and you know stuff happened and stuff. And this could just be because, you know, she just casts spells in her sleep. Or maybe she's so powerful and everything. It's just something she can't contain when she's asleep. Why exactly is she so powerful? It's never been explained, and they're gonna let it linger on to other seasons. But it does make me wonder who her parents are. There's been no mention of them whatsoever. Are they alive? Are they dead? Are they in some type of like protection agency or something like that? Like who and what and why are they the way they are? And why aren't they here on the show? And why is there never no mention of them? And it better be a good reveal, because if it's not a good reveal, then it's just going to be boring. But evil is looking for her, and she can't use her magic because it keeps alerting like evil. But of course, she uses her magic because it would be a pointless show if she didn't. And they send tons of people after her, and she's able to like defeat them one way or another. And that hooded figure in house party episode, that was the bad person looking for her, but yet I don't know why he just didn't grab her or use, oh wait, magic couldn't be used, but he still run out there and grab her. But anyway, they lingered way too long with the prophecy and who this evil bad reveal is, because it's like they introduced in the beginning, they sprinkle it in like maybe 5 episodes later, then they don't re-reveal it again until the very end of the series. And so you're just watching filler episode after filler episode after filler episode, just waiting to like find out what this big thing is. And the big prophecy is she destroys the world. I like her wand. Disney Channel needs to get on that merch. Seriously. Like, put out the wands and everything. And their wands are more Harry Potterish, fairy-ish type stuff. Like, you know, if you ever look at a wand on Amazon that's not Harry Potter related, you normally see them with like a crystal at the end and, you know, wood looking. And so there's a combination of those too. And so she's always running away because once she finds out about the whole prophecy thing, you know, and destroying the world, she literally tries to get away until the bad guy ends up capturing her. He ends up tricking her because even though she's supposed to be smart, because the thing is, she already knows how to use magic, apparently, but Justin still has to teach her for whatever reason. And so, like, the bad dude ends up tricking her to getting an amulet that has a very special wizard in there. Bella is the little girl that's mean to Milo. I like how they gave him somebody to play off because he just can't keep hanging out with his mom all the time, you know what I'm saying? And so people say she's like Gigi. I say she's more like that one guy with the who had the Italian accent, the jumpsuit, who used to sell newspapers outside of the substation. Because she looks kind of like him and sounds a little like him, but she has a squeaky voice. Basically, she's just mean to him. And the woman who plays her mom is her mom in real life. So basically, she thinks there's something odd about the Russos, especially when she sees Billy doing magic. She ends up in the lair by going through the secret entrance and stuff. And she wants to, like, tell everybody. But then it's like some kind of a monstery thing grabbed her, like a plant or something like that. Basically, they saved the day, but then she kept something in her pocket after they erased her memory. She kept the squawk. And then one day, she took it out of her pocket, didn't know what it was, rubbed it, and he came out, and he grants her tons of wishes. Why she didn't wish to do magical stuff, the heck if I don't know. But anyways, like, once the squawk was, like, captured, they re-erased her memory, and so we don't know what's going to happen with her in the second season, if there is a second season. Winter is the best friend of Billy. When she first met her, Billy just wanted a friend, she wanted a best friend, and she picked Winter. Basically, she stole her from that Roman and stuff, because that was actually her friend, and he even used to call her my Winter, but then Billy just didn't care and stole the girl. She is the Harper of the show in terms of the best friend only, and she's happy-go-lucky just like that of Harper, but she doesn't dress like Harper at all. Mainly she's just there to interact with Billy and Roman and do whatever nefarious thing they're up to and try to help them out, or just goes along with it because she finds magic so fascinating. They expose magic to her in the very first episode she appears, and that really bugs me because with Harper it took a little bit longer. It took like 2 seasons and stuff. They could have paced it out a little bit longer, but I guess they didn't want to be exactly like the original. And so, like, she is the one who unleashed, like, Pumpkin Belly because she wanted to see what he looked like and everything. And so the thing about her is that she, like, literally she leaps before she looks and stuff, and she just finds, like, magic really, really, really fascinating. Milo is the Max of the show, and it's funny because the actor's named Max. He is not as dumb as Max, thank God for that. He has a level of intelligence, but he's the goofy younger brother type character. He just loves doing silly things, reckless things, and he has a bit of an attitude sometimes, which is kind of funny, especially when he had those big muscles and he was going to beat up on his brother. Mostly, he just loves magic to death. He loves seeing it. He loves, like, what it can create. But he mostly just hangs around, like, his mom. And he gets magic towards the end of, like, the series. Roman is literally the Justin of the show. He's cocky, he's smart, and he's whiny like him too, and scared of things like spiders and stuff. Sometimes I thought he liked Winter, but so far they haven't done that yet. He actually has a girlfriend that's a fairy named Iggy. However, a couple of episodes later, when the popular girl at school, who's actually very nice, started talking to him, he was, like, all gushing over her, but it's kind of like, well, what happened to Iggy and everything? He hangs out with that of mostly Billy. He's very critical of her, of how she breaks the rules and how she does this and how she does that. He was exposed to magic for a day where he acquired it, and he got to see it's a little bit harder than just, like, pointing your wand and just saying, like, a spell. He's a lot better than the Justin character. They sometimes just went too far in either the dorky side of Justin or the mean side of Justin. But like I said before, him and his brother got powers. Silas Evil Nini. So he is our villain of the first season. At one point, I thought to myself in my head, who could be this mysterious villain? Could it be Stevie? Could it be Evilini? But I'm all like, no, she's an Oscar winner, like actress. And the actress who played Stevie, well, her character is dead, but the actress is always singing. But he is her son. And so he's around Justin's age, what makes me wonder why wasn't he at Wiz Tech, and who is his father, and will his father be looking for revenge? So the thing about him, and this character is hilarious. He's charming, he's funny, he's evil, and he wants Billy's power because only a powerful wizard can release that of his mom. His mom is trapped in the amulet. She escaped one time and got recaptured, so they put her in the amulet. And so basically he's going to cipher off the powers of Billy, use it to unleash his mom, and then of course Billy destroys the world somehow. I don't know how that's supposed to happen. They still haven't went that far yet. But yeah, he is our big villain. And I'm just kind of like, they went the kid route of the evil villain from season 1. Like, they couldn't come up with something a little bit more original than that. But the character's cool, so I'm down for that. And so when they tricked him and everything, his powers got siphoned by the machine, and it went into that of the two Russo boys and stuff. And so with the help of Billy, they trapped them back in the amulet. But then something odd happened. So this one actress named Kristen, I forget her name, Venenis or something like that. I can't remember. It's something with a V. And she plays Minister Bigelow Figgleshorn or something like that. And she's the head of the tribunal and everything, and she's a really nice wizard. And at one point, somebody impersonated her, right? But then, at the end, when she gives the boys their wands, and why their wands look like carrots? They look like Justin's wand. I don't like that. I don't like that carrot look. It looks like a wooden carrot. I'm hoping they'll give them different wands in season 2. God, I hope so. When she left after telling them about the whole wizard competition, her eyes glowed red. Now, red was the color of the evil wizard dude and his machine. So somehow she got possessed, and I don't know how. So, going into season 2, of course, the boy is going to have to learn magic. This is something I wanted at the beginning of the season, but then, when they didn't do that, I was okay. I got over myself, but now they went and brought them and gave them magic. And I'm just like, oh man, I gotta adjust again. Personally, I do not want to see Justin and the boys and Billy in the lair learning magic. I would prefer it if they all get transferred to Wiz Tech. Do something different. Change up the playing field. Have Justin be the headmaster at Wiz Tech again. Bring in the kids. Have them be interacting in the wizarding world. And, just do something fun that way. Like, I would really, really enjoy that. However, then you have to ask yourself, what's going to happen to Winter and that of Gianna? How you gonna explain them being in the wizard world? So that won't work out, but at least it'll be different. I mean, they can go to Wiz Tech during the day, and then no, they can't because there's dormitories that I don't know, but that would have been a whole lot more interesting than just rehashing the original series again. And so I think this was a fairly good season, a fairly good start. They played it way too safe, however. It would have been nice if they would have upped the ante and made it a bit more edgy. Not too much, but just up the ante somehow. Like, evolve this show, Don't piggyback off of what came before, especially in that of the characters. Because one of the things that bugged me the most is that all these characters are just knockoffs of the original characters from back in the day. I don't want to see Alex 2.0. I don't want to see Justin 2.0 or Max or Harper or Teresa or Jerry. Let these characters be their own people. I would have made Roman probably like the bad one who's always like doing stupid stuff and abusing magic. I would have had Billy be the smart one, more like a Justin type character, just somebody a little bit more smarter and more serious. I would have had like Milo, I don't know, something. Like maybe he just doesn't care for magic and has like a hobby doing something else. Like I don't know, like you know what I'm saying? But just don't rehash what they did before because it just makes the show look cheap and everything. Because you know you don't want to play somebody else, you want to play your actual character. Because every once in a while, when you'll watch this show, you'll say, oh, that's from the original series, and that's from the original series. Oh, that's from the original series. And you don't want to always do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have to grow and you have to evolve. Just like Justin. Justin is still basically who he was before. He just has kids and a wife now. So I do think this is going to get a second season. I do think it's a good show. I just don't think it's as good as the original series. It's just not as funny as the original series, but it's something you can watch and enjoy and, you know, have a good time. But if you're going to commit, you got to commit and everything. Don't dial it back because you're catering to little kids and stuff. Because really, it's kind of like, who is this show for? When it's trying to be a little bit more mature, but it's G-rated and the main cast are a bunch of little kids, you know? And of course, with Milo and Roman now having powers, I'm expecting it to get more wacky. If it doesn't get more wacky, then that's a huge problem and stuff. Because how can you not go wacky with magic? And the question is, how long is this magic going to stay in their bodies? Normally, when a mortal gets magic on this show, it doesn't last that long. So the question is, why would it last longer in them than in nobody else? You know what I'm saying? And like, also, I don't like the rush nature of them being able to use magic when, especially when Milo's never used it before, and Roman never did that certain spell. Like you, like what? They supposed to be like gifted or something like that, or in the heat of the moment, it just happened. Like Roman literally just picked up a wand for whatever reason and just decided to blast that dude. Like, how did he know that was even gonna work? Because he didn't even know he had magic and stuff. And then Milo's all like, "Well, I'm gonna try too," and then so like he did it. And it's just like you hear the fake applause from the audience, from like the sound machine. It's just kind of like, that wasn't an earned moment. This is supposed to be Billy's moment. Oh yeah, she comes in at the last minute and says the spell that Justin tells her. But I just feel like it robbed from her. Like, you know, like that would have never happened to Alex. Alex would have like, you know, whatever spell she learned would have just said it and then vanquished something away, you know? Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.